Kansas, so he took a widowmaker and his rope, and he went to Kansas. Found himself a big old cyclone. That's what they call tornadoes out west. He took his rope and he caught one of those cyclones, hopped up on it, and rolled that cyclone all the way back to Texas. And then he wrung every bit of water right out of that cyclone. Think that's a real story? No. You think Pecos Bill's a real guy? Ah, you're right. See, they had to make up something to tell how come they caught cattle the way they did, and so they gave it to a guy named Pecos because they knew of a river out in Texas called the Pecos River. So they're pretty smart there, yeah, but cowboys weren't the only ones out there, folks. No, sirree, there was another profession out there, all across the country, mostly up north where there's a lot of wood. Lumberjacks, yeah. Because see, everything was made out of wood. Houses and boats and, desks and pencils. And, you know, one of the best lumberjacks out there was a guy, he was named Paul Bunyan. Yeah, you know who Paul Bunyan was? He was a guy that was born out on the East Coast. And when he was a little boy, every time he rolled over, he'd knock down about 100 acres of woods. Yeah. So everyone in town said to the Bunyans, Mr. and Mrs. Bunyan, please, could you move out of town in case Paul rolls the wrong way? You might squish one of the kids. So the Bunyans moved out of town, and they taught Paul to be a good person. We don't know much about him at this time, but we do know his folks told him a couple things. Be kind to others. Treat them the way you want to be treated. Don't pick on anyone who's not your own size. And if you're going into town, by all means, walk around the house. It's not over. Oh, did I forget to mention, Paul was 55 feet tall. His feet were the size of school buses. That's right. So when Paul was old enough to get a job, he decided to be a lumberjack. See, lumberjacks are guys that go down and cut down those trees so they can make all those buildings and everything. You know how they cut down trees? I need some help. Oh, you right back there. Sure, you come on up there. Yeah, the scout. Yeah, you come on up. Oh, yes, you young lady. Can you squeeze through this way too? And how about you right there? And now, hold on, I got somebody later. And let me see. Oh, well, yes, right over here. Yes, you, come on up. Yeah. Folks, it always amazes me. I just turned somebody into a cow, and everyone's hands go up the next time I'm looking for volunteers. I don't know. So, come on up here. Yes, come on up. Yeah. You know what? Spread out, guys. Spread out, ladies and gentlemen. And strike a pose. I said, strike a pose. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. The High Point Forest. All right. Yeah. Now, a nice lumberjack sees a bunch of healthy trees like this. First thing he's going to do is take his axe over to them and chop them down. See, they go for the base of the tree, and then they take it down, and then once they had it down, they have to clean off all these branches. Paul came up with a better idea. Yeah, Paul decided while the tree was still standing, he'd come up to it with his axe, and he'd chop down all the branches on one side, and chop down all the branches on another side. Now, folks, our trees only have 2 arms. We have to pretend like there's a lot more branches. Yeah. He'd clean all the branches off that tree till he had nothing but a post sticking out of the ground. Then he'd walk away from it. Go to the next tree. Chop down all the branches on one side. Chop down all the branches on the other. Again, we only have 2 branches. Pretend like there's a lot. Yeah. Get back up there. You're a tree. I just took your branches off. You're still stuck in your roots. Stay up there. It's getting to the punchline out here. He goes to the next tree and chops down all the branches on one side and chops them down on the other. And he finishes that one and goes to the next tree and chops down all the branches on that tree. And he does this until he's got about 100 acres of trees, all clean to their branches, nothing but posts sticking up out of the ground, ready to go to the lumber mill. Then he gets right in the middle of this whole thing, takes the axe, takes the blade off the handle, puts a rope on it, starts spinning that thing around in a circle near the base of those trees, and as he spins them, he lets it go further and further out until they all fall down. Until they all fall down. Hey, lumber! There we go. Stand up, stand up. Take a bow. Take a bow. Please take a bow. Sit back down. Go ahead, you can sit down, folks. It was wonderful. So, Paul was doing this all across the northern part of the country, but there was a problem, see? See, Paul was big enough he didn't have to worry about those trees falling down on top of him. But all the other lumberjacks did, so they had to work real far away. Paul was always by himself. Oh, he hated that. He felt terrible about it. As a matter of fact, every night when he was going home, he was always hoping that someday he'd have a friend to work with. Oh, and then it happened. The winter of the blue snow. Hey folks, has anyone ever seen a blue snow winter? Oh, for those of you that haven't, a blue snow winter is a winter that's so cold, even the snow turns blue. Guess what Paul's favorite color was? Blue. You got it. So he loved it every time it stormed during the blue snow winter. Yeah, as a matter of fact, he'd sit there by his window and he'd watch it. This one time, there was this terrible storm going outside. You couldn't see. The snow was going sideways, but it was all blue. So Paul's looking at it and he's loving it. He says, I tell you what, I got to go out and play in this snow. So he puts on his shoes, he puts on his coat, his gloves, his hat. He goes out the door and he's looking at the snow. No! He trips over something right in the middle of the road. He says, hey, I think there's a mountain growing right here in front of my house. I better get a closer look. So he gets a look. He sees two ears pointing out of that snow. Hey, I've never seen a mountain grow, but I don't think they start with ears. I better get a closer look. He sees a nose pointing out of that snow. Well, I don't think this is a mountain. I better get a closer look. He gets up next to it and he hears, meow. Well, at that point, he pushes the snow away and he sees the face of a little baby ox. He picks that ox up in his arms and he goes inside his house and he sits down by the fireplace and he warms that ox up all night long. And in the morning, sun comes through the window. Sun rays hit that ox and that ox warms up, nibbles on Paul's ear, and he says, babe, you and me are going to be friends forever. That's how he met Babe, the big blue ox. And it's a good thing they met each other, too. See, because Babe grew to be really big. So he could work with Paul. Yeah, because he didn't have to worry about the trees falling on him. See, Babe was so big that they had nothing to measure him with. To see from his nose to his tail, you needed binoculars. There were no scales to weigh him. As a matter of fact, the only measurement they ever got was the distance from one eye to the next. And it was 42 axe handles, one right after the other, from one eye to the next. That is one big blue ox, huh? But now he had a friend to work with. And the two of them worked all the way across the country, from the East Coast to the West Coast, cutting down trees, sending them to the lumber mill. Ooh, and their favorite thing to eat were flapjacks. Matter of fact, they'd make flapjacks about the size of this room. Yeah, they get a nice hot skillet going and they get a bunch of butter or lard and they'd strap it to people's feet and they'd skate around on that skillet to grease it up and then they'd make a big pancake. Think that's a real story? No. You think Paul Bunyan's a real guy? No. Who said yes? Very good. Yes, he was a real guy. See, Paul Bunyan was a lumberjack and he was a giant for his time. You know, he was about 6.5 feet tall. And in those days, that was as good as being a giant because people grew much shorter. So as the stories grew about Paul, so did his height. It went from being about 6.5 feet tall to 55 feet tall. So there we've got a story about a real person, but kind of made up stories. Wouldn't you say so, huh? Yeah? I'm going to tell you this next one, and I'm going to let you in on a secret. It's about a real guy. He only did one thing in his life, but it was an amazing thing that he did. See, his name was John Henry. Now, John was born before the Civil War, and John was born as a slave. That meant he worked for somebody else through no choice of his own. He had no say-so in anything. It was wrong to do. Matter of fact, that's why they had the Civil War, to straighten that whole problem out. So as soon as the Civil War was over, John was free to do what he wanted. You know what John wanted to do? He wanted to work on the railroads. See, because John loved one thing in particular. He loved swinging a hammer around. He loved the feel of a hammer in his hands. He says, I'm a steel driving man. I'll drive steel or I'll die trying. So when he was free to do what he wanted, he headed out for the railroads. They use hammers. You know how they do that, don't you? Do we need to show them, folks? Can you help me out here? Yeah. And you can help me out there too. Oh, I'm going to grab a couple people from back there. Yeah, you and you. Yeah, come on up here. Okay, hands down. You're all going to help me out in this one. Parents included. Parents included. Okay, here's what we got here, folks. This is a railroad crew, right? This is my crew. One guy like this, he's going to hold out a spike like a nail, right? Okay, you hold that out. You actually, you kneel down right here. There's pretty tall there, yeah. Kneel down, hold out a spike like that, a big nail, a big nail. The three of you, you're gonna get around them in a circle, okay? And you're gonna have pretend hammers, okay? Pretend hammers, and one after the other, you're gonna try and hit that spike with your hammer. We'll start with you. Ready? Go. Boom, go, boom, go. Boom, go, 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 finally, they would hammer that spike into the ground. It took 4 people to do this job. It was awful loud too, so all John had to do was follow the sound. Eventually he found the railroad crew, and he went up to their boss, which was called the foreman, and he says, "Sir, I want to work here." And he said, "Really? Where have you worked before?" He said, "Oh, no place. I was a slave up until yesterday." What? Do you think I'm going to let a greenhorn work with my people? See, a greenhorn's someone who's never done something before. That's what they call them, greenhorns. He says, "You know what could happen? Hey, any of you want to work with a greenhorn on your crew?" No. Get out of here, you're crazy. John says, "Come on, just give me a chance." The foreman says, "No way, no how. You know what might happen? You might take that hammer, and instead of hitting the spike, hit the guy holding the spike, break his head open. Or maybe you'll bounce back off the spike and hit the other one in the gut. Knock the wind out of him. I can't afford to have you on my crew. Get out of here." John says, "Just give me a chance." And out of the crowd comes a guy named Little Willie. He says, "I'll give you a chance, John." He goes to get a spike. He goes to put it down to tell John what to do, and bam! John took a stroke at the spike. And before anyone could catch their breath, bam! Second time. 2 strokes and that spike is all the way into the ground. He couldn't believe it. John was hired on the spot. He was doing the work of 4 people. Yes, sirree, but he wouldn't be hired unless Little Willie worked with him. So the 2 of them became the best crew out there. They worked together with the rest of the crews, and every morning they get together and they have their coffee and they're talking. One morning, John and Little Willie come to talk to the rest of the crew, and the crew says, John, did you see the sign?" "What sign? What sign was it out there?" "The C&O, that's a Chesapeake in Ohio. They're going to build a train track right through a mountain. They need only the best people to work on that crew." Well, they all knew what would happen. John and Little Willie'd have to go work for that crew because they were the best railroad workers out there. So they said goodbye to their friends, and they headed out to work for the C&O company. They got there, and their boss was a guy named Captain Tommy. Captain Tommy was so nice as a boss. He let their families travel with them. If your kids got sick, you left, you went home, took care of your kids. You had Sundays off, half a day on Saturday. People loved working for Captain Tommy. Then one day, a city slicker comes by from New York. He says, "Hey, Captain Tommy, you can get rid of all these people working for you. I got the future, and the future is a steam engine drill. Doesn't take weekends off, has no kids to get sick, doesn't have to stop to eat. Matter of fact, the only thing it needs is coal. You can get rid of all these people working for you and take a look at the future." Captain Tommy says, No. These people depend on me for their jobs. They need me to support their families. Without my job to pay them, what are they going to do? No, you can have your machine. Guy goes, "What, you're afraid? Afraid my machine's better than you guys?" Captain Tommy says, "Your machine couldn't beat my best crew. Tell you what, why don't we have a competition? My steam engine drill against your best crew. If your crew wins, and it won't, I'll give you the drill. I don't care if you let it collect dust. But if my engine wins, and it will, you have to buy it from me. Leave it here, let someone take it away, but you've got to buy it. I'll tell you what, I'll even go this far. If your crew wins, I'll give each man on that crew a $100 bonus." Captain Tommy said, "Let me talk to my crew." What crew do you think he talked to, folks? John Henry, right? And Little Willie, right? Yes. What did John say? "Captain, bring on that machine. A machine's nothing but a machine. A man's a man. I'm a steel driver."